everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, where it's our show where we review things within the world of television, whether it's episode by episodes of shows that are on the air, season by seasons of long-running shows, or doing these season reviews where it's a non-spoiler basis. So if you have yet to see a show and you're curious to see, I wonder how the show is, here you go. This is the show for you. And today we are reviewing the first season of Walker Independence, spoiler-free. So that means no spoilers throughout. Anything beyond episode 1 will be kept a secret, so you can go into the rest of the show. I'm totally blind. I will mention a couple of plot points that are apparent in the first episode, but it won't give anything away to the overall plot of things. If you were unaware, as well as, just in general, we also had produced an entire review series for Walker Independence. We reviewed every episode in the hopeful first season of the show. And we also did a season 2 predictions video last week, so you can go check them all out. So if you are more inclined to watch Walker Independence after this review, and there you go, you have a little companion series to go enjoy. So that will be enjoyable, hopefully, for the people who actually do care about going the extra mile. But if you only care about Walker Independence, you want to hear, is it necessary and is it worth the binge? Because when you do a show like Walker, the question is that Walker in itself is a really good series. Is expanding the universe, was that a necessary thing? Personally, for me, when they announced it, I was like, batting my eye, I wasn't asking for a prequel. I wasn't asking for a prequel spinoff. And then again, some of the best prequels of all time wasn't even asked for. Did anyone ever wanted a Better Call Saul? No, Better Call Saul was it came out of nowhere. It was pitched, it was made, and everyone loved it. With Walker Independence, I will say it has a good amount of growing pains. It never reaches great, but it is good. I feel like it's a little bit of a bar down compared to Walker, but I feel like once you get into the meat of the show and it starts to become its own identity, then you have yourselves a really good cast there and a good show for them to work with. Because for me, prequels are very much a very difficult sell. I actually had a conversation about this with one of my friends recently, where prequels are very hard to sell sometimes because at the end of the day, you know how the story's going to end up, because the whole point of a prequel is providing the backstory for something you already knew. So in this case, Walker Independence was mainly made to kind of have an old-fashioned Western, a family feud kind of thing, setting that all up, that Walker, specifically season 2, set up between the Walker and the Davidsons. As well as, fitting in another character from the show, the Rollins, which we didn't really get to see much about. And there you go. There was your premise for the story. Not to say season 2 mainly was trying to set up the prequel. I definitely never had the inclination to I really want to know how this entire family feud began. I didn't. I didn't care about it. I'm being honest. I really didn't. When they announced this show was happening, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's the CW being the CW, trying to make universes for anything. You had the Arrowverse, then you had the All-American verse. Briefly, you had the Vampire Diaries universe. Supernatural got its own kind of quasi-universe with its own prequel series. And now Walker had its own, the Walker-verse has happened. And personally for me, when they announced it, and then when they got into the actual show, I was never legitimately excited for it. I was curious to see how this was going to go. And we'll get into the meat of things in a second, but just in the most basic, I know this is what you would really call basic, but for me it is. I thought the show was good. It definitely took me by surprise. Especially by some of the choices they made, whether that was for a good reason, in my opinion, or for a bad reason, and also in my opinion. And I feel like, at the end of the day, they definitely somehow balanced the line at the end of trying to keep this in line with the larger show. As well as trying to make it have its own identity, not trying to, just replicate what Walker had into basically the late 1800s. So going to the meat of things, the story of the entire spinoff lies in the first real generation of the Walkers, where you have a character named Abby Collins, and don't worry, I am mentioning the names right. You had Abby Collins, and you had her husband Liam. Yes, the same. I guess the one thing they did in this show a lot, and I'll say this as on the table, you'll know this from the get go, as well as down the road. Speaking in this show as well, they made a lot of callbacks to just the characters' name that we saw on our show on Walker. So you had Liam, which obviously is Liam, Cordell's brother on Walker. In this show, it was mainly inspired by, Liam was Abby's wife. And then the entire the kickstart of the story is that Abby and Liam were originally from Boston. They had very difficult upbringings over there, and then Liam had an opportunity to start fresh in a brand new town as sheriff of Independence. And they decided to leave back their lives, abandon everything they had, and start fresh in a brand new state in a very uncertain time period in the history of America to, begin their own story together as man and wife. Tragedy ensues, and Abby's husband is killed. And she's somehow, left to bring up the pieces, and she embarks on this, kind of murder mystery-esque type of feel in the Western, as well as trying to figure out her own identity without her partner, without her family. And trying to set apart this new identity for herself as Abby Walker. And that's where kind of like the entire series begins, so to speak. And once she arrives at the small town of Independence, she finds out that the person that could have killed her husband, because in true mystery fashion, we only see partial of the facial features of the killer. And it's almost an exact match to the brand new sheriff, who was supposed to be Liam, but it's this new guy named Tom Daverson, which of course is the one of the ancestors of the Daverson clan that we saw in Walker, the main Walker show. And one of her allies is Hoyt Rollins, not the Hoyt Rollins from Walker, but the original Hoyt Rollins back in the late 1800s that would inspire the naming for the Hoyt Rollins that we saw in Walker. And spoilers for Walker itself in its first season, during his to his end, basically speaking. As very simple as a premise may be, I was honestly really curious because I never seen a proper Western. Like, okay, Back to the Future Part 3 doesn't really count. That's debatable. But beyond that, I really haven't seen anything. Like, the Western genre has been a very much of an on and off thing in more recent history. Like, not that many people do those films anymore because it was very popular back in the way old time periods of cinema, and then it burned out. And now... here, it seems to be at times making a comeback, not all the times, but, you get these pop-ins then and there, and this show being kind of like my first real introduction to, like, how that, world feels, and even when they were promoting the show, or, like, talking about the development of it, it is very much trying to, reach out to the roots of how Westerns were made back then, but giving it a modern spin of, like, how we deal with our stories right now on characters and, storylines and everything. Like, the modern tropes that we know are being thrown into to kind of give a modern update to the genre. Does it always work? Not always, but I do find it to be, at least, it was fairly enjoyable for me to enjoy every week, at times, most times at least. So going into, like, the characters themselves, again, not trying to be a spoiler nut here. Definitely one of the things that I felt more surprised of is that they cast, for Abby Walker, Kate McNamara, who is a very well-known actress. She has done a lot of, she has a pretty stacked resume. And she's not even like that. How do I say this correctly? She has not had that many years in the industry, or at least I don't think she has. I think it's like a little bit like around a decade, which it seems like a lot, but like she's still relatively young. I think she's closer to my age than like 30. I could be wrong there. I have not looked at people's ages in a long time. But yeah, so like I've always been a fan of hers. She was on Arrow in the last seasons portraying Oliver's daughter. So I knew her from that, and I knew she had the chops to lead her own show. She was supposed to lead her own show on the CW before that, which would have been Green Arrow and the Canaries, but that never got picked up. So here, finally getting for her to have her own CW led show was her being the main star, having the main billing. I think it was worth it. She definitely it's perfectly said to she does not have to be like Cordelia. She doesn't have to attribute action. A lot of Cordell's trying to be like Cherry Padalecki. She's just being her own character and trying to set up the attributes and the traits that will inspire all the Walkers. And kind of as well as dealing with her own trauma, because she's dealt with so much. This is gonna come as a minor spoiler, but when you get into the roots of Abby's character arc for the season, it is a very much of an uphill slope. Like, she's going through a lot of different emotions, you know. I feel like this happened in the first episode where when the entire first episode was done and she kind of had a moment to kind of relax and kind of like finally have a proper moment of rest and like sleep, she didn't sleep. She just cried because it that was an authentic reaction to like, how would you feel if like you get thrown into an entirely brand new world and the only person that was supposed to be there with you is gone forever and you're all alone. Like no one there really knows you. You're kind of relying on the compassion and the niceties of some certain people that have been very much of a good grace to you. And having that moment of like finally having that weakness, which was very much, you know, needed to like, you know, show, because like she is human. She's not trying to like, you know, be a rock solid human being, just like forget everything that happened. You know, she very much continued on for it to get to that point and like had to like finally release everything. Like, you know, if you really think about like, you know, as the moment that the murder occurred to all the way now, it has honestly felt like I for me personally, for her, it could feel like a day in her mind. Like it felt like a day. Everything happened within like a 24-hour interval. Not that it has in the show, but it felt like it because she was obviously, when you get severely injured, you get knocked out. So really the sense of time kind of goes away for a while. So to speak. And, you know, Abby made mistakes. Obviously, she's going to be on this crusade to avenge her husband and, you know, bring justice to his name. But it's an uphill battle, especially back then in that time period where the law and how it's run was mainly run by the deputies, by the sheriffs. And, you know, sometimes they can be the best deputies and sheriffs, and sometimes they can be the worst. And, you know, you're going to have to fight that system, so to speak. As well as this is a time period where, like, yeah, for us, technology doesn't exist. There is no way to like properly communicate. So it's all like, you know, if the right channels aren't being notified, it is very hard to prove her case. And, you know, especially again, like being in a new town, having to like try to live life every day without her husband, just trying to survive, as well as trying to do her own investigation. She does a lot of things right, but she also like makes some mistakes, and you know that just makes her human in this like very critical point in her life where it's a transitional period where like it's truly saying goodbye to how things were before, and then also trying to get into this like, you know, transitional point where like she has to like become this new person, but as well as trying to like, you know, make sure her past is not forgotten, which very much is definitely Catherine McNamara. Definitely she encompasses so well in these 13 episodes, and I very much was like, you know, sold on her performance by the end of it, that, you know, she had like managed to turn this character in a whole new direction by the time, you know, it's all said and done, from episode 1 to the episode 13, which again was like, you know, that was definitely something like, you know, and also for me, again, I didn't mention this for once at the start. If a story is shit, okay, that's fine. But if your characters are somehow being like the reasons why you're keeping going, like you want to see how their development is, like definitely, I could say like I could watch Walker Independence could have an even like kind of more predictable story than it had at certain points, if the characters just stayed the same. Like, you know, if that was the moment, if that was the standard, I would still watch it, because Abby's, you know, growth and change throughout the entire season was very much noted and very much appreciated, and very much I enjoyed seeing. Again, wasn't a big fan of certain mistakes, but that's neither there or there. Moving into Hoyt Rollins, where I really liked him. He definitely served as like the comedic relief, again, as he served on Walker, where I like Walker, where he was like recurring, and then, you know, up until his that character's death. Here feels like, you know, a fresh slate, you know, very much like we can continue, we can like start over, like, you know, have basically this could have been Hoyt, like they're so interchangeable, because like this is the same actor who played him on Walker, because since that character is dead, so I'm like, oh yeah, we could just, you know, bring that actor over. Like, you know, who else can play Hoyt Rollins better than the actual actor who played Hoyt Rollins? So very much that was like, you know, very much right casting there. And honestly, they subverted my expectations with him. Definitely, I just felt like he was just going to be the comedic relief all throughout. But he honestly does have genuine story arcs. He definitely has some story beats that I very much was like, okay, you're not just a deadbeat. You're not just a crooked thief. You're just not someone who's going to go into someone's pants that you find attractive. You know, there definitely is growth to him, which was surprising, you know. that being a Western, like the town needs an idiot, and I'm not saying he's an idiot, but I'm just like he could definitely feel like that person that fits the role pretty well speaking. And the fact that like, for his callback, not only is he just, obviously the actor playing another version of Hoy Rollins, it's also the fact his horse is named Cordell, which I'm like, oh, I love it. I love it so much. Like, I smiled a lot during that. And then just he was like kind of like the break in the levity, like there was a lot of serious moments, like there is a lot of serious moments in the show, and then he comes around, he always finds a way to like lighten up the tone, like, yeah, we can have, there's sometimes times of light in the darkness. So definitely him bringing that was like, I enjoyed it a lot. I really did. I especially enjoyed his performance, and I definitely appreciate to the crew that brought him back, that made the decision of bringing back that Hoyt and putting him here. It was very much, the right move, and kind of gave the actor more material to grow, having to be the lead, one of the leads this time around. It definitely was like, that was a great decision on that front, because I could not see any other actor playing the ancestor to Hoy Rollins. So it was a little cliche that like, they just got the old actor, but like it works perfectly well. For me, it works perfectly well, to say the least. Moving into the final legacy character. There's no other characters, but I'm just talking about the legacy characters first. With Tom Daverson. This time not played by any of the Daversons alums again, like similar to Abby. He's his own character, and obviously it's his character is part of a larger web of Daversons, as we know in Walker. With Tom specifically, I feel like they did such a good job painting him in a very broad stroke. It wasn't that thick. It wasn't that thin. It was in that right middle ground where, like, honestly, by the time you reach the second half of the show, you're just debating, like, your understanding of him. Like, the more, like, we get into, like, the first half, I will admit, kind of felt like more stereotypical, like, very shady, very sneaky, like, having certain attributes of the Davisons we know. Like, he's definitely hiding something. He definitely is not the person he seems to be on the surface. And then, because, again, the one good, like, some of the benefits you have with a prequel is, like, you get to subvert fans' expectation. Like, okay, the Davisons have always been pitched on Walker as the antagonist. Like, the Walkers are the heroes, they're the villains in a way. So, like, you look at Tom and, like, oh, he's gonna be the villain. And yeah, they build him as the villain. But at the end of the day, it's like, I feel like this show continues the recent, like, in my theory, the gray factor, where like not every character, not every story is a traditional good versus evil story. There definitely is variation, and there definitely is segments and other directions they take it. Where for in this case with Tom at times, like, I'll be honest with you, and even in the first time, like, I get the vibe of like, you're not really truly evil. And I'm like, again, like, he's not going to be like a mustache twirling villain. I wasn't saying that. No, they could have done that for a Western. They could have literally just made him the obvious proof. But he's not. Like, he's not like that. And that worked to the benefit of, like, now, like, looking back on it, like, obviously trying not to give spoilers here, but, like, when you look back on, like, when you do this, when you do these types of stories, and like, you get like that critical moment later on in the season, and you get to look back and I'm like, you rethink things from a certain perspective. It's cool to say that, yes, they did think about that for Tom. Like, it wasn't a straightforward villain role. They definitely gave him more layers. They definitely made you, give that, that judgment, that questionability, that, like, honest, thinking of like, did he do the right thing? Is he the villain or is he not the villain? I don't know. Murder is a very serious subject, but but in the fact with murder mystery, like, the moment you get that crucial aha moment that brings you to a better understanding of your answer, and as well as it kind of paints previous things that you used to have as like your evidence in a different context. And Tom, like, the case with Tom was a perfect example. And shout out to the actor, I forgot his name, but he played him so well towards the latter half, where like I was really much debating. And I feel like Walker has done that pretty well this season with the Walker versus. They're doing a kind of like, not the same thing, but like a eerily similar thing on Walker Prime right now. So for me, getting to see that for Tom was like, yeah, it definitely made things not feel so cookie cutter with a villain, and definitely it kind of, it still gave the story like an antagonist force to deal with, but not to the extent of like, that I was expecting, so to speak. So to move on beyond like the, the legacy characters for a bit, and then going into like the new character, like these new faces, these new names, interact with our heroes. We have our 3 legacy characters, and then we have 3, roughly 4 at times, new characters that do not have like a present day Walker family equivalent on the main show. First being Kate. Kate is a I was about to say a spoiler. I'm like, oh wait, that wasn't revealed. That's not talk about yet. But Kate basically becomes Abby's best friend. You know, her confidant, her partner in crime, not in crime, but like just, you know, trying to use some Western tropes over here. Kate runs the when we meet the show, when we get into the show, like, you know, unlike the other 3 who like are either new in town or they roll into town often or not as much. Kate is the first like local that Abby meets, where she runs the Hagen's, the hotel. Well, she doesn't run. She runs Hagen's entertainment division, let's call it that, with dancing, with the live shows and everything during like their nights of drinking and you know, sometimes gambling, just performance based to like make Hagen some more money. And Hagen's, side note, is played by the lovely Mark Shepard. Because, you know, obviously, all time, Jared and Jensen Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles love reusing fellow Supernatural alums on their shows, especially post Supernatural, which I'm like, you know, it proves to say like, do everything and anything possible, and it will assist you in like, you know, getting you a bigger role down the road. Do you guys really think Austin Butler would have gotten Elvis if it wasn't for all the Nickelodeon Disney Channel shows he used to do when he was younger? Those all counted. Those all led to where he is now. Nearly winning an Academy Award, but he did not. Sorry about that. So for Kate, like, I really like Kate Sass being like the first like new character we're introduced to the first one we're really introduced to in the show. Kate has moxie, she has sass, she's not willing to back down, and definitely is willing to speak her own mind for not just for herself, but for her fellow dancers, as well as, not sitting around. She's always the first one to call to action. And, definitely as you discover more about her character down the road, like, it definitely kind of makes you feel like, no matter what she has to do or no matter what the task is, her character always shines through, and she's always thinking of the larger picture. She's always thinking of everyone around and doing her best to help people, which obviously aligns with what Abby operates. And, the two kind of in a way are similar at times, but, they don't figure out more than that till like, later down the road to speak. But, Kate, I think Kate's like out of everyone, she's one of my favorites, of the show. She's definitely always like, she always steals the scene whenever she's there. And I'm like, I love it. I really love it so much. So shout out to that actress who portrayed her. I'm sorry if I don't remember everyone's names. It's just, my brain works in like, very low man. Actually, no, we had 5 other, newbie characters. My bad. I was thinking like, I forgot one character. When it comes to any ensemble piece, like Walker Independence, like, it's not about just Abby Walker, it's about the town of Independence, where, like, with all the characters that you're on the show, like, for me, like, the one that got the most shaft, like, not the most shaft, but, like, the one you get to see the least of is another character named Kai, where Kai is kind of, like, just, he's like the outside, like, I'm trying to find the right words to phrase it, but like, he's definitely the person that you do not expect to be in Independence, but when he's there, it's delicious. Where he runs a Chinese restaurant in this small town in Texas, and honestly, I got hungry every time I saw him cooking food. I'm like, I'm so hungry. I want some dumplings right now. I actually have dumplings in my fridge, but like, it's too late. It's too late to cook now. But anywho, where was I going with that? So Kai, kind of like at the first get-go, doesn't really have much to do, so to speak. Like, you get very strokes with his character. Like, he knows how to cook, he knows how to clean, he knows how to sweep. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the perfect husband material for y'all. So go scoop him up. He does have an obvious crush on Cade, which Cade at times does not reciprocate. But Kai remains determined. They don't get to do super much with him. I'm not gonna say he doesn't have a lot to do. There are episodes where he has a primary focus, and in most episodes he's just there or he's not there. But for me, like, yeah, Kai is very much the character that I enjoyed. I feel like every time he's on the scene, like, I do enjoy his interactions with the characters. There was one episode in particular where he kind of had more time to shine, really, and I'm like, yeah, thank you. You actually gave him some actual moments. Otherwise, he's just helping out the main cast or at some other point in the story. But definitely, so to speak, like, he is very much a fundamental component that makes the town of Independence work, and it makes me, I don't know what the right words is. I'm sorry, but it makes me feel like he's a good fit. he's a good fit to the story. Regardless, like he did not serve like a much bigger purpose than I would have thought, but definitely he did. He did make his impact on the show when it did count. Caliban, the next character, is by far for me, like, you know, I think had the most potential, so to speak. He definitely did achieve most of it. Caliban is not technically a resident of Independence. He lives in the tribe nearby, with his fellow tribespeople. But definitely they give him so much story to work with. Like, you know, they definitely did. Like, you know, I think that was like a through line of like trying to get more storylines going for him, as well as for his, you know, side of this this not really town. Like, okay, well, he's in the town area, but like it's debatable how population and property lines, you know, borderlines work. But so to speak, when we introduced to him, like, you know, we don't really get to see too much of him. Like, really, like, obviously he's in the main post and everything. You know, he's the one who saves Abby in the first episode from her injuries. But nevertheless, he kind of represents as, like, you know, this wisdom. I forgot what the term is. It's this aura of like, no matter what he's standing for, no matter what, you know, he has to do or where his like loyalties align, he will always help whoever comes his way. He will always help. And the moment you realize why he does this, like why he has to help people, is really like, you know, sincere. It gives you an honest, you know, like honest answer to how a character becomes who they are through words and through, you know, the actions of their words. And it definitely, like, if any character should deserve more screen time, it would be Caliban. Like, you know, definitely I was very much, you know, intrigued by his story, about the direction he had gone for in his life, and how does that lead him to becoming the man that he is today. And definitely of all the characters of Independence, like, definitely he is the one that I feel like I would like to see more of him in terms of, like, you know, him trying to, like, you know, do his own thing, so to speak. And I feel like that's like the makings of a good character, where like you actually do want to see more of him. Same with Kate, really, and so both of them I feel like share the same title, even though I didn't mention that for Kate. But definitely it made me wonder, like, you know, what other stories they could have for him. But in terms of, at least in this season, I think they did a lot with him, and I feel like everything was matterful to where he is as a character, where he's not layered down by the main storyline. But, you know, definitely he is assisting them a lot of the times, but like he is still trying to do his own thing and trying to, like, you know, make sure that everything that he has in his life that's important to him is very much being fulfilled. And lastly, we have Deputy, oh no, I was so close. I had everyone's names, like, you know, remember Deputy, his name, well, his title is Deputy, I just completely forgot. Deputy Gus, I remember him. Gus is always that, like, you know, the one character where, like, he's kind of like the badass, like, you know, like, at times I just felt like he was just going to be like the deputy that, like, you know, he always has his suspicions of the villain, but he never really, like, you know, pays mind to it till, like, the very end. They definitely make him feel like, you know, I gotta make this comparison to another show where, like, whenever he's there, whenever we have those moments with Gus, it is impactful. It very much, you know, if he's feeling it, if he's suspecting something, then it's like, it's a big deal. Because out of everyone in the town of Independence, he has been through a lot in his life. He has been through a lot. And, you know, they often build Independence as a town as second opportunities, second chances, you know, that, like, come away from your old life, wherever you are, and come here and start anew. Like, everything that happened in your previous life, it's gone. You can, like, reinvent yourself. You can do something completely different with yourselves. And, you know, you kind of, like, you know, allow yourself to kind of have that new break that you've been wanting. And to see that happen with him here, with that being, like, you know, his characteristic and being his, like, you know, his instinct to, like, you know, always, like, not everything is what it seems. He definitely has, like, that sense of, like, you know, always have eyes in the back of your head and always keep things, you know, positive. And, like, nothing is ever as they picture, and you don't ever take things by face value. Where, for me, I feel like if certain things, if he had not been that same character and certain things in the series have happened, he would not be there to help. The show could be a radically different story. Or at least the story could have happened radically different. And that's, that definitely keeps things, you know, intriguing. Definitely keeps things, like, you know, he definitely is the character of, when a mystery happens and, like, okay, I figured it out before the main I'm gonna go tell him, and you're always fearing, like, oh no, is he gonna die? Is he gonna, like, you know, tragically get interrupted and taken away for a couple episodes so that we keep the storyline going? Definitely him having been the character of like, he would know the most, and he's also at the greatest risk, because parties that need certain things to happen would not like people like him, people who figure things out too quickly and then will ruin the plan. He's definitely a thorn in a lot of people's plan, and definitely whenever he finds out something, it's like, okay, it's on a time clock. We gotta get rolling here. We gotta get rolling here. And then lastly, and she's not built in the main cast, but she is a part of a lot of the promotional posters. Louisa represents the local family that everyone knows, that she comes from a respectful family, one of the founders of the town. She's not the founder of the town, but her dad is, and how does having that position like kind of make things a little bit more opportunist for her, but also as like very strict. Where she has like passions, she has dreams, but like her parents have very different ideas for her. And then also she has a very much of a love, but mostly sexual relationship with Hoyt. But definitely she has the drive to kind of like want to do her own thing, kind of like not be tied down to anyone really. Like she doesn't mind it, like she really doesn't, but she definitely wants to have more of a say in her life. And she definitely wants kind of like to do her own thing. And the episodes we do get to see her in, she's not in a lot of the episodes, but definitely whenever she's there, it's felt that, she's part of the bigger story. She's part of like, having her own thing to do and having her own destiny to write. And, and also she's like the actress and the character, both amazing singers, which I'm like, okay, kudos to that. I'm always a sucker for a good singer. And, definitely she was the recurring character like I would love to see more of down the road if we were to get more story. Like, definitely make her like a series regular or a main character or something like that. That would be like, yeah, I want to see more of that. I want to see, more of her down the road. And so that definitely is another sign of like, when you make a good character, like you want to see more of, like you're getting the right amount for now, but you definitely want to see more of them, as you eventually get to that certain point. But other than that, like, some shadows I'll make again, like, bringing in, Mark Shepard to be, Higgins himself, continuing that supernatural, connections. They're all connected in a way. And the feel for me, like, I respect this prequel. I really do. Like, definitely they did not always have to hanker down to what Walker itself had kind of like set it up to be in terms of like, the prequel aspect. They definitely succeeded in like honoring their legacy and honoring their parental, the parents series, but as well as being able to drive the line of like, we're doing our own thing. That this isn't just a prequel, this is its own thing. And honestly, I'm like, that's honestly the best thing you can do. And it all worked out in the end of the day. So I really do appreciate that. And I think they did a fabulous job with the show. It's not, I think, up to the heights of Walker, in my opinion. I definitely feel like if you were to give me an episode of Walker Independence to watch and I had to choose one of them, it would probably be Walker still. But definitely the cast of Independence and the characters definitely were the shining stars in obviously, a traditional murder mystery in the Old West. They definitely succeeded what they were trying to do of, bringing a modern take on it. And it definitely worked for the majority of the part. And I hope the show keeps going. I hope the series gets to tell more stories. But for now, they definitely delivered a really solid first season. And yeah, I'm into Westerns, just not to the full extent of like, watching it each and every time there's one in the air. So definitely not to speak. So for me to answer the age-old question, is Walker Independence worth the binge? For me, it is worth a watch. It is very enjoyable 13-episode season. I don't think you have to binge it fully in one sitting, but if you have the time, it's not something I would go against, but it is something like you can take your time. This is not a show that you need to go to the end of the series to figure out everything, but definitely like enjoy the ride and, consume everything at a very respectful pace. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you had watched Walker Independence. What did you think on it? What is your opinion on it? Did you enjoy it as a spin-off? Did you enjoy it as its own thing? Let's have a conversation down below. But if you have been sold on it and you want to watch it yourself, Walker Independence is not available on any major streaming services at the moment. It will most likely be on HBO Max in the distant future, once things get cleared up. Right now, you can watch, I'm pretty sure, a good amount of it on the CW.com or the CW app, so you can go check that out right there if you are curious about it. It's also on demand, so you can go purchase it if you want to, if you believe in that sort of method. But yeah, and that's it for me. That does it for this season's coverage of Walker Independence. It's been a very fun 15 weeks of fun content to do for this new for this Western side of the show, and I very much enjoyed it. If you're unaware, this has been What's Two from ActionX, reviewing the entire first season of Walker Independence in a non-spoiler fashion. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the Two besides these season reviews. Currently, right now, we are doing Perry Mason episode reviews each and every week after brand news is on HBO and HBO Max on Monday nights. So go check it out there. If you do care about Walker, we're also doing our every Walker episodes reviewed every Thursday nights after brand news is on Thursday nights as well on the CW. But normally, again, as I mentioned at the top, we have reviewed every episode of Independence separately, so obviously getting into the details of each and every episode. And I was very happy with that. So if you are going to watch Walker Independence, you can go check us out. As you watch episode 1, you watch our episode 1 review, and you keep going from now watching. So hopefully it'll be a very fun ride for everyone. But for me, again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not yet. Like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring the bell for the notification when our next video is live. And of course, follow us on social media. But until we see each other again, for all you members of the town of Independence, thank you so much for enjoying this review. For everyone who has watched every single video somehow, thank you so much for watching. And hopefully I'll get to see you down the road for another go around. But just in case, if this is the end, stay safe out there, be good to each other, enjoy the Old West, and howdy and see ya.